Insulated grounding conductors are required for electrical equipment to prevent accidental contact with the ground conductor, which could lead to electrical shock. In pool wiring, exposed grounding conductors could increase the risk of electrocution if they come into contact with water or other conductive materials. Pair bonding conductors are used to establish a low impedance path between the pool and other metal objects, for example, the deck or ladder, to equalize their electrical potential. Pair bonding conductors ensure that any electrical current flowing through the pool water is diverted safely to ground without causing harm. Conduit provides a protective barrier between pool water and electrical conductors, preventing corrosion and preventing water from penetrating the insulation. This is crucial as water can cause electrical shorts and increase the risk of shock. Conduit protects conductors from physical damage caused by movement, digging, or other external forces. This is especially important for underground wiring, where soil movement or root penetration could damage conductors. Rotten conduit can compromise the integrity of the grounding system, allowing electrical current to escape through the damaged sections. This can lead to electrocution or other electrical accidents. Loose conductors surrounded by dirt create a potential fire hazard due to arcing or overheating. Dirt and moisture can accelerate corrosion of conductors, leading to increased resistance and decreased safety. In summary, the grounding requirements in NEC 680 are designed to prevent electrical shock, ensure proper grounding, and protect wires from water damage and other hazards. The use of conduit is essential for protecting conductors and maintaining the integrity of the grounding system. Consider the implications of using insulated grounding conductors versus bare bonding conductors in swimming pool applications. The National Electrical Code, specifically Article 680, establishes stringent regulations for electrical installations in and around swimming pools to mitigate the risk of electrical shock. The differentiation between insulated grounding conductors and bare bonding conductors is a key aspect of this safety strategy. Insulated grounding conductors, typically green or green with a yellow stripe, serve as the primary path for fault current to return to the source. The insulation is critical because it prevents unintentional contact with other conductive materials, which could create a shock hazard. In the context of pool wiring, the presence of water significantly increases the risk of electrical shock, making insulated grounding conductors essential. These conductors are connected to all electrical equipment associated with the pool, such as pumps, filters, heaters, and lighting fixtures, ensuring that any fault current is safely directed back to the electrical panel, tripping the circuit breaker and energizing the circuit. Bare bonding conductors, on the other hand, serve a different but equally important purpose. These conductors are intentionally left bare to facilitate direct electrical contact with the metal components of the pool structure and surrounding equipment. The primary function of bonding is to create an equipotential plane, which means minimizing voltage differences between all conductive surfaces within and around the pool. This is achieved by connecting all metal parts, including the pool reinforcing steel, metal fittings, ladders, handrails, and even nearby metallic structures like fences, to a common bonding grid. By ensuring that all these components are at the same electrical potential, the risk of shock is significantly reduced. If a fault occurs, the current will distribute evenly across the bonded surfaces, preventing dangerous voltage gradients that could cause electric shock to anyone in or near the pool. The choice of bare conductors for bonding is deliberate. The direct metal-to-metal contact ensures a low impedance path for current flow, which is essential for quickly equalizing potential differences. The absence of insulation allows for effective and reliable connections, minimizing the risk of corrosion or degradation over time. It is also important to note that bonding conductors are typically larger in size than grounding conductors to provide a robust and reliable connection. Now let's discuss the conduit requirements for pool wiring. The NEC mandates that all wiring associated with swimming pools must be installed in conduit, regardless of whether it is located underground, within a building, or exposed. Conduit serves several critical functions in ensuring the safety and longevity of the electrical system. Firstly, conduit provides mechanical protection for the conductors, shielding them from physical damage due to digging, soil movement, or other external forces. This is particularly important for underground wiring, where the conductors are vulnerable to damage from rocks, roots, and other debris. Secondly, conduit protects the conductors from environmental factors such as moisture, chemicals, and corrosion. Pool environments are often highly corrosive due to the presence of chlorine and other chemicals, which can degrade the insulation of the conductors and lead to electrical faults. Conduit acts as a barrier, preventing these substances from coming into contact with the conductors and extending their lifespan. Thirdly, conduit provides a continuous grounding path, ensuring that any fault current is safely conducted back to the source. When metal conduit is used, it must be properly bonded to the grounding system to maintain electrical continuity. This is typically achieved by using grounding bushings and bonding jumpers at each conduit termination. The type of conduit used for pool wiring is also important. Rigid metal conduit, or RNC, and intermediate metal conduit, or IMC, are commonly used for underground applications due to their strength and corrosion resistance. PVC conduit is also permitted, but it must be installed in accordance with the NEC requirements, including proper burial depth and support. When installing conduit, it is essential to follow all applicable codes and standards. The conduit must be properly sized to accommodate the conductors, and it must be securely supported to prevent sagging or displacement. All joints and fittings must be watertight to prevent moisture from entering the conduit system. Now, let's address the issue of rotten conduit. Over time, underground conduit can deteriorate due to corrosion, soil conditions, and other factors. When conduit becomes rotten, it loses its ability to protect the conductors and maintain the integrity of the grounding system. This can create a dangerous situation as the conductors may become exposed to moisture and other contaminants, leading to electrical faults and shock hazards. If you encounter rotten conduit, it is essential to replace it immediately. The replacement conduit should be of the same type and size as the original, and it must be installed in accordance with the NEC requirements. It is also important to inspect the conductors for damage and replace them if necessary. Remember to always de-energize the circuit before working on any electrical equipment associated with the pool. In summary, the grounding and bonding requirements in NEC 680 are designed to protect people from electrical shock and ensure the safe operation of swimming pool electrical systems. Insulated grounding conductors provide a safe path for fault current, while bare bonding conductors create an equipotential plane to minimize voltage differences. Conduit provides mechanical protection, environmental protection, and a continuous grounding path for the conductors. Regular inspection and maintenance of the electrical system are essential to identify and address any potential hazards, such as rotten conduit, and ensure the continued safety of the pool. The correct installation and maintenance of pool electrical systems are crucial for preventing electrical hazards and ensuring the safety of swimmers and others in the vicinity. Adhering to the NEC 680 and engaging qualified electrical professionals for any installation or repair work will help to create a safe and enjoyable pool environment. Consider the specific details for equipotential bonding in swimming pools as detailed in NEC 680.26. Equipotential bonding is a critical safety measure designed to minimize voltage gradients in and around a swimming pool, reducing the risk of electric shock. This section outlines the specific requirements for bonding various metallic components to create a unified electrical potential. Firstly, the NEC requires bonding of all metal parts of the pool structure, including the reinforcing steel of concrete pools. This is typically achieved by connecting a solid copper conductor, no smaller than 8 American wire gauge, or AUG, to the reinforcing steel at multiple points. The conductor must be securely attached using listed bonding clamps or other approved methods. Secondly, all metal fittings within or attached to the pool structure must be bonded. This includes items such as ladders, handrails, diving boards, and skimmers. Each fitting must be individually bonded to the equipotential bonding grid using a solid copper conductor of at least 8 AWG. The connections must be mechanically strong and corrosion resistant to ensure long-term reliability. Thirdly, any metal piping systems associated with the pool, such as those for circulation, filtration, or heating, must be bonded. This includes both metallic and non-metallic piping systems with metallic components. The bonding connection should be made as close as possible to the point where the piping enters or exits the pool structure. Fourthly, all electrical equipment associated with the pool, including pumps, filters, heaters, and lighting fixtures, must be bonded. This is typically achieved by connecting the equipment grounding conductor to the equipotential bonding grid. The grounding conductor must be sized in accordance with NEC Table 250.122, based on the rating of the overcurrent protection device for the circuit. Fifthly, metal fences, gates, and other metallic structures within 5 feet or 1.5 meters of the pool's inside edge must be bonded. This is to prevent voltage differences between these structures and the pool, which could create a shock hazard for someone touching both simultaneously. The bonding conductor must be connected to the structure at a point that is accessible for inspection and maintenance. Sixthly, any metal parts of the pool cover, whether manual or automatic, must be bonded. This includes the metal frame, tracks, and any other conductive components. The bonding connection should be made in a way that allows the cover to be operated without compromising the integrity of the bonding system. Lastly, the NEC requires that the equipotential bonding grid be extended to include any metal structures or equipment located within the pool area that are likely to become energized. This includes items such as metal furniture, decorative features, and even nearby metallic building components. The goal is to create a comprehensive bonding system that encompasses all potential sources of electrical shock in the pool environment. The equipotential bonding conductor must be solid copper and sized in accordance with NEC 680.26c. The conductor must be continuous, without any splices or joints, and it must be installed in a manner that protects it from physical damage and corrosion. The connections to the various metallic components must be made using listed bonding connectors that are suitable for direct burial or submersion. It is essential to inspect the equipotential bonding system regularly to ensure that all connections are tight and corrosion-free. Any damage to deteriorated components must be replaced immediately to maintain the integrity of the bonding system. In addition to the specific bonding requirements outlined in NEC 680.26, it is important to follow all other applicable codes and standards for electrical safety in swimming pools. This includes proper grounding of electrical equipment, use of ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, for all pool-related circuits, and adherence to minimum clearance distances from overhead power lines. By implementing a comprehensive equipotential bonding system and following all applicable safety guidelines, it is possible to create a swimming pool environment that is both enjoyable and safe from electrical hazards. Remember to consult with a qualified electrical professional for any questions or concerns regarding pool electrical installations. Ground fault circuit interrupters are essential for safety. Ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, are crucial safety devices designed to protect people from electrical shock. These devices constantly monitor the current flowing through a circuit and quickly interrupt the power if they detect a ground fault. A ground fault occurs when electricity unintentionally flows to ground through a path other than the intended circuit. This can happen if someone touches a live wire or if there is a short circuit in the wiring. GFCIs work by comparing the current flowing in the hot wire with the current flowing in the neutral wire. In a normal circuit, these currents should be equal. However, if there is a ground fault, some of the current will leak to ground, creating an imbalance between the hot and neutral wires. GFCIs are designed to detect even small imbalances in current, typically as low as 5 mA. When a ground fault is detected, the GFCI trips the circuit in as little as 1/40th of a second, quickly cutting off the power and preventing a potentially fatal shock. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, requires GFCIs to be installed in numerous locations to protect people from electrical hazards. Some common locations where GFCIs are required include bathrooms, kitchens, garages, outdoor receptacles, and swimming pool areas. In swimming pool areas, GFCIs are required for all receptacles within a certain distance of the pool, as well as for electrical equipment such as pumps, filters, and heaters. This is because the presence of water significantly increases the risk of electrical shock. There are two main types of GFCI's receptacles and circuit breakers. GFCI receptacles are designed to replace standard electrical outlets. They have a built-in GFCI that protects the entire circuit downstream from the receptacle. GFCI circuit breakers, on the other hand, are installed in the electrical panel and protect the entire circuit. When choosing a GFCI, it is important to select one that is rated for the intended use. GFCIs are available in different amperage ratings to match the circuit they are protecting. They are also available in different environmental ratings, such as weather-resistant GFCIs for outdoor use. It is essential to test GFCIs regularly to ensure that they are functioning properly. GFCIs have a test button that can be used to simulate a ground fault and verify that the device trips. The NEC recommends testing GFCIs at least once a month. If a GFCI fails to trip when tested, it should be replaced immediately. In addition to GFCIs, there are other safety devices that can help protect people from electrical hazards. Arc fault circuit interrupters, or SIs, are designed to protect against fires caused by arcing faults. Surge protective devices, or SPDs, protect against damage from voltage surges. By using a combination of these safety devices, it is possible to create a safe electrical environment in homes and businesses. The use of proper wire sizing is critical for the safe and efficient operation of electrical circuits. The size of the wire determines how much current it can safely carry without overheating. If a wire is too small for the amount of current flowing through it, it can overheat, potentially leading to a fire. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides guidelines for determining the appropriate wire size for different applications. The NEC specifies the maximum ampacity, or current carrying capacity, of different wire sizes based on the type of insulation, the ambient temperature, and the number of conductors in a raceway or cable. To determine the appropriate wire size for a circuit, you need to know the load, or amount of current, that the circuit will be carrying. The load is typically expressed in amps. Once you know the load, you can consult the NEC tables to determine the minimum wire size required. It is important to consider the voltage drop in the circuit when determining wire size. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage that occurs as electricity flows through a wire. Excessive voltage drop can cause appliances to malfunction or operate inefficiently. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to no more than 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. To minimize voltage drop, you can use larger wires or shorten the length of the circuit. The type of wire used also affects its ampacity. Copper wires have a higher ampacity than aluminum wires of the same size. This is because copper is a better conductor of electricity than aluminum. The NEC specifies different ampacity ratings for copper and aluminum wires. The insulation on the wire also affects its ampacity. Wires with higher temperature rated insulation can carry more current than wires with lower temperature rated insulation. The NEC specifies the maximum operating temperature for different types of insulation. When installing wires, it is important to follow all applicable codes and standards. Wires must be properly supported and protected from physical damage. Connections must be made using approved connectors that are properly tightened. It is also important to avoid overloading circuits. Overloading a circuit can cause the wires to overheat, potentially leading to a fire. The NEC specifies the maximum number of outlets and fixtures that can be connected to a single circuit. Regular inspection and maintenance of electrical wiring are essential to ensure its continued safety and reliability. Damaged or deteriorated wires should be replaced immediately. Loose connections should be tightened. Overloaded circuits should be corrected. By following these guidelines, you can help prevent electrical fires and ensure the safe operation of electrical equipment.